It's the middle of the summer. Lots is going on all over the place. And we got stories on this edition of the Tweet Cap from all walks of life. Ryan Page is here with me to talk these things. What's up, Ryan?
How's it going, Matt? It's hot this summer, man. It's hot.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know about
little.
you guys, but it's been hot down here.
Yeah, it's been pretty brutal in the Northeast, and as they say, like they it physically was the hottest day on record for planet Earth, I believe, right?
The 4th of July weekend was like the hottest ever. Yeah.
I don't want to create any paranoia for those environmentalists there, but they are making their case as the years go by. But I guess we'll worry about that later when we have our doomsday tweet cap.
Got to.
Hopefully for another 80 years. But what's great about this edition to start it off, Ryan, is that this show is called the Tweet Cap, even though it's really evolved into a trending topic story. But
Mm.
initially was Twitter based, but has braced for the whole internet. And
Yeah.
now Twitter is genuinely in danger, it seems, with all the pushback for Elon's new vision for Twitter, the policies he's created, limiting view count, limiting post views, um, creating actual payment plans and subscription plans on Twitter for something that was free. And despite all the tension it has caused since its inception, well, not what the Twitter
Since
itself
he took
caused, but
over,
its
yeah.
people. At the end of the day, it really is a great source for news, entertainment, and
Oh,
all of
okay,
that.
yeah.
But after Elon specifically took over and has upset a lot of people, it's given people a chance to become a legitimate competitor. So what am I talking about? Twitter now has competition. You have Threads and Blue Sky, and I'm sure there's other platforms that I'm not I'm not mentioning right now, but definitely the big ones, Threads and Blue Sky, and more focusing on Threads seems like
Mm-hmm.
it can really take Twitter down. Listen, Productive Conversations has a Threads page now.
Yeah.
And as we promoted at Productive Conversations Podcast on Threads. But we've come to the point now where the tweet cap will now have to talk about Twitter itself and the fact that it might. Am I too dramatic to say it might go down? It might blow itself up. What do you think is happening with this new competition for Twitter and Threads?
So as your comment section has pointed out, I'm not a huge Elon Musk fan in terms of what he's done with Twitter. I actually don't really, it's mostly a Twitter based issue, to be honest with you, but that's neither here nor there. So I was on Threads within like 5 hours. I
Mm-hmm.
was on Threads very early. As soon as it was announced, I was like, I'm making a Threads, and then I thought I was a day behind. I heard it was announced. I thought I had to wait till the next day. I found out that night that I didn't have to wait, that it already started, and I jumped on right away. So I've been on Threads a while. I'm still excited for it. It's a lot of fun. But I would say that this show that we do, as of right now, could not be Threads based entirely. Threads does not have nearly as much news. It does not nearly as much, like, it's not nearly as usable for finding things to talk about. Um, so there's definitely a lot of differences. There's definitely a lot of stuff. Like, as much as I love Threads, and I do love Threads, it's a lot of fun. Getting to see some of the folks that I'm friends with, like on Instagram, in more of like a Twitter setting, and like in more of like a post setting or a blog, almost like a mini blog setting. That's kind of cool. And then talking about mini blog, Mastodon is very similar. But the well, two things. First, it just doesn't have the functionality yet to like search for the news. Like that's not something you can do on Threads yet. Like it'll come up eventually if you keep threading or whatever. Like if you keep going through, eventually if you follow a news source on Instagram, it'll show up. But it's not like Twitter where you can actively seek out trending stories and news and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Also, my actual Instagram account has changed since I don't join Threads. and I think it's because of Threads. So
Really?
yes, so my Instagram pre this had a lot of obviously WWE content, a lot of stand up comedy. That's the two things I pretty much focus on Instagram is professional wrestling. Obviously, everyone who knows me knows that. And stand up comedy, I like to watch clips and all that. And then because I watch so much professional wrestling, a lot of times collegiate wrestling actually shows up, which is interesting. I like to read the stats or whatever. Now, because I follow some like meme pages on Threads, all of a sudden I'm getting those pages on my Instagram. Like when I on Instagram. And so it's definitely started. They're definitely more interconnected than I think I realized. And that was actually my biggest selling point for Threads. Everyone has one baked in pretty much. Like Blue Sky is the other one you talked about. I mentioned Mastodon. There's one called Hive. There's a bunch of other ones, but no one has those. So I joined this Hive one just to check it out. Blue Sky, I couldn't get into. I had to wait because there's a wait list. So, and no one's on it. It's just random people complaining about other social media platforms. That's the entire platform. And I don't know if Blue Sky is the same way or not. I don't know if you have a Blue Sky, but I'm assuming it's probably slightly better because that one's the one that gets like in Mastodon. That's the one that like the super like left kind of politicos and news and media people talk about is like Mastodon and Blue Sky. So I'm sure that's a little different. But for the most part, no one's on there. So like you can't see sports content. You can't see, for me, like WWE content. You can't see the stand-up comedians. This one you can because everyone has an Instagram already. You know what I mean? Instagram's already up there. So you literally just have to log on, connect to your accounts. But I think if people start to realize how interconnected they are, that might give people some pause. I don't know if you've noticed that on your threads or not.
The only thing I've noticed was on Instagram, you have that little link of numbers that pretty much says that's your link to your Threads
Threads, yeah.
account. I mean, for me personally, I've just been posting Threads the same time I post Twitter when we do all our social media stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's just added to the list. So I really haven't really soaked in it in as much. I still like my Twitter. I still probably will use
Yeah.
Twitter,
Mhm.
Despite this. And it's admirable and we'll ultimately see where it goes. But Threads is focusing on Threads and any other social media that is giving up to date minutes, sub updates, if you will, or whatever the deeper meaning of tweets are. But regardless, they have a hard task. Even though everybody's mad at Twitter, it's going to be really hard to bring them
Well,
down. They really have to self-destruct, if you will.
so I was gonna say, I think that I'm being real here. Blue Sky, Mastodon, Hive, all these random ones that I've looked up when I was mad at the original
Mhm.
tweet limit that was set of like 300 or 600 or whatever. Um, they don't have a shot at ever displacing Twitter. They just don't. It's for the reason I said the content creators. It's the same reason that Elon making everybody pay was kind of stupid. It was actually that was the argument that the celebrities were making. We actually had this conversation on the tweet cap at the time. Is that a lot of people go to Twitter to hear those people's tweets. Like those people are creating content on the app. It's a self-fulfilling cycle. The people that we know, the people that we follow, celebrities, news people, whatever, they tweet something, we engage with it, and so they keep tweeting, and that's why people go on the app. That doesn't exist anywhere else. It can exist on Threads because so many of them are on Instagram, and they have obviously Mark Zuckerberg. They have a lot of money and infrastructure to back it up. So I think that Threads is probably the most legitimate kind of like alternative to Twitter. But I agree with you. I don't think unless, and I mean, you could argue that he's trying really hard. I mean, he's definitely he's definitely turned Twitter into something that kind of sucks even more than it already did. I mean, we've said on this show when it was just the tweet cap, when it was like not just a segment, like Twitter does suck. It's not real life. It's meant to make you kind of
Mhm.
angry, at least the way that like most people use it. I talked to someone the other day who was like, "Oh no, I actually love my Twitter. I've curated perfectly, so it's just things I like." I'm like, "All right, well, if you can game the algorithm to make it your happy place, then go for it." Most people see stuff they don't like on Twitter, and that's the point. And so like it's always been bad. He has made it less, like even less enjoyable, in my opinion. I've just because there's been less of the content that I did like and more content from creators I don't like. And he's amplifying almost exclusively horrible creators. Like Elon
Yeah.
specifically is retweeting people who kind of suck, like as people and as the content they create is bad and they're not doing good things. So I want threads to work, but I don't even know if what he's doing now is enough to actually take Twitter down. Like, I think what he's doing
It all
now is,
comes down to their cage match.
first of all right, Elon freaks, you are freaks. If you defend Elon Musk in the comments of this reel, you're a freak. First of all, second of all, Elon
Yeah.
Musk would get absolutely slaughtered. I mean, listen, do I think Mark Zuckerberg is a particularly tough person? No, probably not. He's still a tech nerd. Like, you know what I mean? He's still, where'd he go? MIT? Where'd he go in that movie?
Harvard.
Harvard, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. He's still a nerd who created, a tech company. So I'm not saying he's gonna win any actual MMA fights.
I'm
What I am
CEO,
saying
bitch.
is that he's got literally 20 years or whatever it is, not 20, but he's got like 15 years. He's 15 years younger than Elon. Elon's like 50, right?
Something like that. These the most extreme billionaires don't even look like people. If you see Jeff Bezos, he literally
Oh, I
looks
bet
like The
this is
Rock.
Jeff Bezos is different. I'm not getting into Jeff. Listen. I don't think Jeff Bezos has ever trained in MMA. I'm sure he hasn't, but I mean
Yeah.
that guy is yoked. So I wouldn't necessarily be so quick to count Jeff Bezos out. Elon Musk is doughy, and I'm a doughy guy. I'm not insulting doughy people.
By the way, just to confirm, Elon is 13 years older. He's 52.
Okay,
Mark Zuckerberg's 39.
yeah. So Zuckerberg's not even 40, by the way. Uh, like
Yeah.
so, and he trains MMA not for a cage match. Like he does it as his like fitness thing, because
And he actually trains with active UFC fighters right
yeah,
now.
like Elon. Listen, Elon's got a lot of money. He can absolutely talk to some UFC guys to actually train for a fight. I'm sure of it. But he's older. He's doughier. He's got absolutely no experience. And I'm gonna say this: I bet you Elon's got a glass straw. I'm calling it right now. If they ever have the actual cage match, I mean, also, can I just say, if your response to getting called out for a fight is to ask for a penis measuring contest on
Mhm.
social media, that's weird. That's a weird thing to do.
Very.
I'm gonna fight you. Nah, we're gonna measure dicks. What? That's silly. Anyway,
This is what people this is what the world told us: work hard, don't give up, pull this. So when you're the richest man in the world, you could say, let's have a dick measuring contest.
yeah, but yeah, I'm not even going to touch it any further. I said my piece on that. I'm just saying, I think that UFC fight, I was confident it was going to happen, and then I just really thought about it. And Elon Musk, he's not an idiot. He's a smart guy. He knows he'd get absolutely worked on in a fight with Mark Zuckerberg, and so he's not going to do it. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope he does do it, but I know I'm not wrong about the fact he's going to get absolutely worked if they
Yeah,
end up doing this fight.
exactly.
There's not a chance this goes out of the second round. If honestly, that would be a victory. If Elon doesn't go out round one against someone who actually trains MMA, even just casually, then I would be disappointed in that person. But no. To go back to what I was saying before I went
Mhm.
on that rant about how doughy Elon Musk is. I think the way he's run Twitter has opened the door for threads to exist. I don't think he's run it bad enough for threads to surpass. I mean, I guess
Luckily, he hasn't.
yeah, he hasn't run it so bad that Twitter's going to go away. I was going to say for threads to surpass it, but I guess you could argue. I mean, Threads is the most downloaded app ever, right? That's facts.
Is that the case? I know at this moment they've had
100
over
million
100,000, 100
million
million. Yes.
downloads and stuff. I mean, compared to Twitter, Twitter reached that number in over years, but Twitter it's an old app, so it's like apples and oranges. Like social media wasn't a thing. Like Twitter created the space, so it's hard to be like, oh, well, Threads went so much faster. Yeah, Twitter had to create the space and then get 100 million people. Threads just had to join the space.
And don't forget too, it's all about the advertising at the end of the day. So see it right here. Many bit here on this article from CNBC that was published this morning, that many businesses have stopped advertising on Twitter over brand safety concerns.
That's why you get the flashlight.
and they are excited about the possibility of advertising on Threads once that option becomes available. So once the advertisers come in, that's when
Well, that's when
we
the
really
money
will see the
follows.
the
Yeah.
battle.
I will say Threads already feels very corporate and branded, which I don't mind. Again, I
Mhm.
use it a lot to follow corporate, like I follow Netflix, right? I follow WWE and NXT. I follow AEW. Like I follow brands on my Instagram, and so I follow them on Threads, and I don't mind it because it's how I learn about things that are happening with brands I care about. But if you want to just see like a random person's like tweet on something, Twitter's probably still the better spot for you. It does feel kind of corporate on the thread side, my opinion. I don't mind that aesthetic. It is what it is. Corporations are going to use social media. It's where people are. They'd be silly not to. But yeah, I do think that if you're looking for a more authentic, air quotes for the people listening, kind of user experience, like you want to talk to people. I don't know if Threads is actually doing that. Maybe at the very beginning, like day one when I was on, it was just people like, who's gonna join? Who's gonna join? Like this is so cool, and it was really cool. Like the first 2 days when not everybody was on, like I was scrolling through it at work. Like it was very cool
Mhm.
to have people just be like, wow, this is awesome. Like we're seeing something brand new. But now it's been a week as of today, and it's essentially become, I'm getting updates from celebrities, I'm getting updates from comedians, I'm getting updates from all of the people I usually follow on Instagram, just written instead of pictures.
Yeah, well, the story clearly has some time to grow.
Oh yeah.
Whether we want to wait to see if this silly fight will actually happen, let's be real, it probably isn't. But
Yeah.
if it were to happen, I'm sure that will be the real peak of this whole story. Or we'll just see two more tech companies going at it to see who takes it over. There was a point where Facebook and MySpace was compared, and MySpace is long gone. Will it happen with
Yeah.
Twitter and Threads? I don't know. Only
I
time will
don't know.
tell.
I think again, last word on this subject. I think it's never wise to go against Meta. I think
Clearly
at the end
not.
of the day, I know that Elon is like the prototypical guy. Like if you thought about the tech guy in America right now, it is Elon Musk. Um, and especially because he's dived so deep into politics, like he is kind of part of the political conversation, more so than Bezos, more so than Zuckerberg. But Mark Zuckerberg hasn't lost yet, and it's gotten hairy. People have tried to take him out. The United States Congress did it, rightfully so in those cases. By the way, I'm not pro Zuck, but everyone, whether for good or for evil, a lot of people have come for Mark Zuckerberg and for Meta, and he's still around, and he's still apparently making moves that are changing the landscape of technology and like social, like, and not even just social media, in media. So I would, if I was Elon, I would be very, very hesitant about jumping into this fight because history has dictated that Zuckerberg's not going to lose it. He doesn't
Clearly.
doesn't lose.
Dude, you remember when the Social Network came out? The
I do. It
movie is 13 years old.
was back when we liked Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah,
Remember
and
that?
it was a good it really critics really talk about how, and now I think it's fair you could say all these years later, it really is a top movie of the
Oh yeah,
2010s.
it's an awesome
It's
movie.
one of the best movies in that decade. It is a landmark movie.
You
And
watch
yeah, that
what's
was a
his name
peak in
too.
some true popularity for the Zuck. And even if his influence has grown even more, and you notice the keyword influence over popularity.
Yeah, no, it's not
Um,
popularity anymore. He's disliked by quite a few people.
it's
Uh,
it's it's crazy how that movie I thought fell at the time was such a peak for him, and it's only been 13 more years since.
that also launched a lot of people's careers. That movie, or like really helped a lot of people's careers.
Andrew
Justin Timberlake,
Garfield,
Justin Timberlake did
uh,
more acting. Andrew Garfield did more acting. Jesse Eisenberg did more. Like they all ended
yeah,
up
and
getting
David.
way more.
Um,
Army Hammer before he ate all those people.
oh, that's a
Remember
bad one.
him?
Rooney Mara,
Hmm.
another one.
That movie
Uh,
helped a lot of people get, kind of become a little bit more celebrities in the acting kind of world, right?
Absolutely. And then obviously the great why am I blanking on his name? Director, not David Lynch, not David Zucker, but not David Ortiz. Uh
Jeez.
but
I know.
obviously Aaron Sorkin
Aaron
wrote
Sorkin,
it,
but yeah, he wasn't.
but
I
David
think he was
Fincher, another
probably
one on his
yeah.
belt for his great career. Okay, Ryan, I want to talk about this interview that took place on the internet. For
That makes one
those
of
who
us.
really soak in the internet, Andrew Tate was interviewed by Tucker Carlson on Twitter. It was released earlier this week.
Yeah,
Andrew
was it
Tate, yeah,
yesterday?
heard of it? Now, Andrew Tate has somebody who has been known to promote, in his words, traditional masculinity. And that has definitely had polarizing reactions to his teachings, if you will. Tucker Carlson, very controversial himself as well. So bring two of the most controversial guys on the internet on the brink of Andrew Tate being charged with human trafficking.
Oh, he's been charged. That's happened already.
And he let me so his unfortunate for the sexual abuse and human trafficking
Well, depends on
charges
who
in
you
Romania.
ask.
Is he cleared of those?
So no, he's
I'm
still pending.
confused.
He's still pending trial in Romania. He's been charged officially. It's not. They're not pending charges. They are charges. He's got to go in front of a court, and they're gonna
Yeah,
do the whole deal. He claimed, and Tucker gleefully just agreed with him. Didn't do any of his own research apparently, which is pretty much on point for Tucker Carlson. That the trafficking is because he and his brother, or he's accused of him and his brother are accused of making women make TikToks and taking the money. And then when asked, how did you make these women do TikTok? He said, by being nice to them. So that is the story he's going with. He's calling it the lover boy method. I'm going to assume I didn't do a deep dive into Andrew Tate. I got through an hour, Matt. I got through an hour, which I was impressed with. I'm going to assume lover boy method is something he talks about in one of his PhD program or his Hustlers U, the two things that kind of made him famous on the internet for a while, where he talks about either traditional or toxic masculinity, depending on whether or not you are a student or a regular person. But he painted a very different picture than what I read. Surprise. I read that, he said he has no history of criminality, that the government, or he calls it the Matrix. Again, I'm assuming that's something that he talks about. But Tucker seemed to understand it too, so who knows? Was just targeting him. And he talked about how he was 35 years old, like a lot for some reason. But essentially, he was like a 35-year-old man without ever having done anything wrong in my entire life. And suddenly, I was arrested. In 2016, he got kicked off the Bachelor, not the Bachelor,
Big Brother,
Big
Canada.
Brother.
I mean,
for
UK.
In the UK, yeah, he got kicked off of that for two women coming forward and accusing him of rape. So now, obviously, he didn't go to jail for that. So my assumption is the charges were dropped, or not enough evidence, or maybe perhaps it wasn't true. I'm not saying any which way. I don't know anything about that case, but the idea that he's never done anything wrong and suddenly this happened, he's been accused relatively credible enough that they kicked him off the show of raping two women. So that's number one. But number two is apparently he forced women to do OnlyFans. It wasn't just TikTok. It was TikTok as well. But he forced women to do OnlyFans. So that's when you get into like the sexual content. In addition, apparently they weren't allowed to take breaks. So there was also like labor laws being violated on the TikTok side of this thing. But he says no one has come forward to corroborate the state's side of things. I don't know enough. Again, I read what I read on like Rolling Stone, on Vice, CNN. Like I read what I could, and then I listened to the interview. So he definitely had more to say about this stuff than those outlets. And I actually want to take this second to talk about that part of it, because he went on, and when I watched this thing today, after we talked about it and decided that one of us had to watch it so we could talk about it on Tweetcap, it was at like 60 million views.
And it's reached 30 as of this moment. Just looked it up now.
30 million? Thought it was more than that already. Maybe he posted it twice then. I don't know.
Oh, it could be more. I'm reading this. While you say
you're reading something. Let me pull up the tweet while I'm talking. And
I want to say something. So a disclaimer. for those listen, I know Andrew Tate is a very passionate fan base, and we do not have anyone at this moment to represent that fan base. So I just want to make that clear. I'm somebody who, I will go on the record saying that Andrew Tate is somebody that I have soaked in a lot of his content to try to understand him, and I don't understand him. So I'll just leave it at that.
I am not incredibly familiar with Andrew Tate. I've basically seen Andrew Tate stuff third party, like other people's
I have people directly sending me his stuff all the time, and I've watched it, but
not
he's
even
not
direct.
he's not for me. But I understand he's a passionate fan base that says otherwise. So I want to put that on the record before we continue.
Basically, he's saying we get it. Don't be mad at us. But anyway, 61.4 million views on this video.
There you go.
So, and then when I was reading Vice, when I'm reading Rolling Stone, when I'm reading MSNBC, CNN, CBS, when I'm reading everything, whatever was written on the arrest and even on this interview, the focus is on the toxic masculinity talks. Basically, it's on his content. They call it toxic masculinity. I am inclined to agree based on what I've heard. But that's kind of missing the point. He just went for 2 hours uninterrupted, defending himself theoretically with lies, I suppose. I mean, I found a few lies that I was able to see just by reading what people wrote and then hearing what he said, and they were not the same. But he went uninterrupted. And obviously, in an interview with someone who's like doing a full interview, the interviewer would interrupt, right? Be like, well, what about this? We know that wasn't going to happen and I will say this, I watched this video for an hour. Somehow the guy accused of human trafficking was more likable than the host of the interview section. Tucker Carlson was absolutely horrific. If this is what he's like on this show, this is the only episode I've seen of his new Twitter show. Absolutely horrific. Like, he was like doing these weird giggles every once in a while. It was weird. It was super weird. I mean, his show was weird too at the time, but this is different. But anyway, he was uninterrupted for like 2 hours because everybody wanted to focus.
Talked, and I did listen to some of it too.
Yeah, everybody just wanted to focus on the content that he made. Like, they're not getting it because the people who listen to the content, you just said he has a passionate fan base, right?
Yes, and we should do how we did the Taylor Swift pod. We should do the Andrew Tate pod in the sense of understanding.
If you can find another person to do the other side, then by all means, I'm not engaging in an argument with someone who follows the teachings of Andrew Tate. I don't think it's a good argument to have. But anyway, we can have that conversation offline. I will say though that his group, his base, his people, the people who follow him, they don't care what was written about him. They just don't. Like,
that's the one thing. He really has for lack of a better word, cult fan base.
It's like, all of the entire right wing of American media, really. I'm not saying everyone who's politically to the right. I'm saying like the people who are in these spheres, like taking in the right media, like they're rabid fans, and not necessarily a negative way, but like just in a, I don't know. It's
Ryan.
Like,
I just chatted you the name of somebody from our hometown we won't say. Did you see that chat? Did you see there's a video of him saying Andrew Tate's views? I have to go, but I was seeing it a year ago, but he pretty much was talking some misogynistic comments, and he was crediting Tate for the way he believed. I don't know if you saw that. It doesn't matter who the person is per se, but it's the influence of his fan base that they promote these things that some people consider these teachings misogynistic.
And
being not force. What's it like?
Aggressive would be the right word.
Yeah, that is the right word. But
I think he's used that word. I think he's used that word, but I don't think he's used it as a negative. He's like, yeah, you take what you want. I've heard him say that 400 times. But I will say that in the way that we're covering this interview, not me and you, but the rest of the world, we're ignoring something. And this is something that I, again, after listening to it for an hour, I could hear. He has a whole pitch to guys who are disenfranchised. Guys, and I think for younger guys in particular, it can become a compelling pitch. I mean, he talks about getting yourself.
Isn't that what cult leaders do?
Yeah, no, seriously, he talks about these things. He talks about like the disenfranchised man, right? He talks about a guy who's like, he's talking about a guy who's down on his luck. He's talking about a guy who doesn't feel proud, who doesn't feel accomplished, who doesn't feel the way he thinks he's supposed to feel. Like that's who he's talking about, and that's therefore who he's talking to, either directly and trying to get them to do what he does to get themselves out of that, or to other guys who are not there but are worried about being there. And so they follow him to avoid being there, right? Like, and it's a real thing. I mean, he talks about men's mental health, and they go on this thing, and Tucker Carlson does this weird thing about men killing themselves because they have to become women or something. Again, Tucker Carlson was the most unhinged part of this interview, 100%, full stop, which is insane because Andrew Tate is like controversially known for being a bit like out there with some of his views. So the fact that Tucker was the weirdest person in this interview was crazy to me. But that was Tucker talking about the men committing suicide because they need to sit when they pee or something. Like, I swear to God, I'm not making that up.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
But not Ben. Andrew Tate was like, he was talking about some of these things. And I'm like, if you're a guy and you do feel down on your luck and you do feel like you're not accomplishing something and you do have mental health problems, and I don't mean like, oh, you're mentally ill. I mean depression. I mean anxiety. I mean, things like that. A lot of times you are supposed to just not have that. That is sort of the way you're supposed to be. Like, and it's not explicitly said necessarily. I'm not saying people are like, oh, you're a man, you can't. Oh, some men do. So, specifically other men. If you're like, oh, I'm depressed, a lot of other men would be like, no, you're not. And that'll just be the end of that conversation, by the way. But even not other men, even, institutions will be like, okay. And they never really talk about it anymore. Like, it's sort of supposed to be kept a secret, like an open secret. And so no one is talking except for this guy. And I mean, he's got a point of view that I disagree with. But if that's the only person in the space talking, and that's the only person engaging with this group of people, what do you expect is going to happen? If no one says a word to you and you feel lost and you feel like you're trapped in the dark, and then one person is talking to the person who feels lost and trapped in the dark, you're going to gravitate toward that person.
They don't know any better.
Right. You're going to gravitate toward the only person you hear talking about it. And I think that's, frankly, I think a lot of that's on other guys, first and foremost, because there are plenty of guys who are not misogynistic, certainly not at least to the degree that, Andrew Tate is basically. I mean, I'll just say it. I know you've been very diplomatic. Matt has been very diplomatic, so do not be mad at Matt. Andrew Tate has, I think, provably been at least a little bit misogynistic. I don't know about the crimes. I don't know about any of the other stuff. Like, that's all going to come out in court, and if he's guilty, he's guilty. If he's not, he's not. That's how it works. Obviously,
in Romania specifically.
Right? So, like,
what if he gets charged in America?
Well, I don't think he did anything in America. He lives in Romania, so
that we know of.
Well, yeah, I mean, but he lives in Romania, so my assumption is that's why he got arrested there, is because he lives there. But like, so again, if he's innocent, he's innocent. I'm not even going to touch that, because if he didn't commit a crime, he shouldn't go to jail. I'll say that. I will agree with that. I will say that just hearing him talk has said things that I find particularly misogynistic. But other men are not filling that void at all. They're not talking about it at all, about mental health. They're not talking about, basically, no one is copying to the fact that for everybody, including men, growing up is kind of hard, isn't it? You don't really know what you're doing. Men also historically aren't great at talking about it. So you don't know what you're doing, and no one is telling you what to do. You could feel lost. Some people don't, and that's fine. Some people do. And so I think a lot of it is on other men for not being more open about mental health issues and not talking more about, sometimes it is difficult to grow up. Sometimes it is difficult, to do X, Y, or Z. But, here's what I did. And maybe it's not right or wrong. Like, maybe it's not the one size fits all approach, but just filling that space with other voices, I think, will go a really long way to, making making that space smaller, essentially, for someone like Andrew Tate to be the only voice, right? But also, I think part of it is, and this is what part is going to get me in trouble. I do think part of it is just a little bit, I don't want to say systemic, but it is part of just society. We don't
Yeah.
talk about these issues for men specifically. I don't know why. I'm
It's
not
almost like
blaming anybody.
society created this person
No, they didn't
to have
create the
that.
person.
We
The
want to get deep.
Andrew Tate created himself. It was, he wanted to be famous and he did it. I mean, we know he wanted to be famous. He was on Big Brother. Big Brother is one of those reality shows where the only reason to be on it is to try and get famous. Like, there's no skill set involved in Big Brother. You do fun little games. You have drama on TV. It is literally in existence only to try and become a celebrity. Like, there's, you know what I mean? It's not like American Idol or The Voice where you
Yeah, I
have to
used to
sing,
watch
or
Big
like a
Brother,
dancing
the
show.
American version, for 20 years up until a
No,
couple
I
years
mean,
ago.
yeah, I mean, it's great TV, but I mean, you think you've watched? You say you watched for
I
20
used to
years.
watch it. I used to watch it all the time, and it's a terrible show now, but I don't watch it
But
anymore.
in general, even before, even
But
when you
yeah, I know
liked
what you
it,
mean. It's there to get influence for people,
yeah,
for
it's just
sure.
there for people to try and become
Except for
famous.
the
That yeah.
super fans that genuinely want to be there. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah, but
most in general. For
I
the
think
I know what you mean.
yeah, and so obviously, I don't think it's wrong to say that he wanted to be famous. I think he proved that, through his actions even before becoming the Andrew Tate that we all know and watch get arrested for human trafficking. But I just think that for some reason we don't talk as much overall, not just other men. Other men are a big part of this, but everybody doesn't talk as much about men's mental health. And so when we don't talk about men's mental health, when we don't talk about even just shy of mental health, talk about confidence, talk about these things. Because I mean, there's a way to be confident without being misogynistic. And your self-worth doesn't have to come at the expense of a different person's self-worth. I don't know if this is the first time you're hearing that, I'm sorry, but it's also true. Your self-worth does not need to be directly tied to another person's in an inverse relationship. Yours shouldn't be going up because someone else's went down, and vice versa. And if you're in any situation where that's happening, we'll talk about one of those potentially later, then you should get out of that situation as best you can. But I just think that we don't talk about this very much, and it leaves a gap. And Tucker Carlson is filling that gap. I mean, he has his own men thing with you remember when he was tanning his testicles or whatever?
Yeah, I'll say one thing. You have one uncredible interviewer to have this important guest. I mean, seriously, and what I've seen, Tucker didn't talk about the allegations.
Not at all. Not at
Hello.
all. Not at
He
all.
talked about the TikTok. So again, don't if you see Tucker Carlson, unless he's interviewing the ghost of Abraham Lincoln, you can't take his interview seriously. That's
No, he
problem
did
number
no
one.
interviewing. Did no
And
interviewing.
and I think that's my gripe with this. You really have just two crazy people talking more, and you get crazy people to get these views, and it was a whole lot of a hullabaloo at the end of the day. And that's like Andrew Tate, despite the criticism, and it seems like rightfully so, he did not have an opportunity to hold himself accountable. He did not have his opportunity to make himself more sympathetic, and he
Oh, he did
ultimately,
though. He did that
I mean, but
to
didn't
his
do a good
people.
job to his
To
people.
his
Yeah, but
people. But
this
so,
is
yeah,
his
he never
chance to
had to
be
talk
more
directly. Yeah.
relatable, and that's the whole waste of time this interview seems to be. Like, it didn't
Yeah, but it got
accomplish
60
much.
million views. That's all it needed to
I mean,
accomplish.
sure, if we're gonna do that, then
But
good,
seriously,
good for them.
that's all Tucker wanted. He doesn't care
Yeah,
about what Andrew Tate did.
but yeah, I think that's the missed opportunity here. And did they
It is.
do you know when this trial is supposed to start in Romania?
No, they didn't. They didn't get into that in the interview with the guy
Yeah,
on trial somehow. So I don't know when it's supposed to
and
be.
I know who said this is your interview. You decide if you like Tucker or not, or whatever the official word he
Yeah,
said
he
was.
does that at everything. He always says, "I'm going to tell you the right wing talking point for 2 hours, and then you decide if you agree with me or not." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Which, whatever, I guess is technically true.
that's just the
Technically,
thing. And I hope eventually, whether it's you, whether it's somebody else, that we do have a debate on both sides with Andrew Tate. That's the thing we have to understand, because I hear both sides passionately, saying their opinionated arguments, and that's fine, but we do need to bring these different parties together and
I'll
actually
do you one better.
break it down,
I'll
like
do you
what's
one
going
better.
on.
I'll do you one better, and I will agree to do this one. I'll do it right here so everyone hears it. I don't want to talk about Andrew Tate. I don't care. I mean, I understand why you do. I don't care. He's a guy. At the end of the day, we can all agree he's just a dude. Maybe he's a criminal. Maybe he's just a former professional kickboxer. We'll find all that out in the coming months as Romanian court and jury decides his fate. But at the end of the day, Andrew Tate is a guy. He's just one guy
With
with a
good marketing
microphone.
to get to this point.
Oh yeah, not just because I don't like someone doesn't mean they're not very successful and all that stuff. I say that about Elon Musk all the time. I say that about all kinds of people. You can be very successful and be disliked by people. I mean, most successful people are, in fact. But I think that this issue that he talked about, the issue that he staked half this interview on with the men's mental health, I think that's an important issue. And I do think that that's an area where not enough people are talking. So if someone who likes Andrew Tate, not because he has the Maserati and because also this guy he painted himself as a family man, married, kids, 35 years old. I've seen the rap videos. I've seen the interviews. He talks like, about going around with all these women. He talks about being a playboy. So again, that was all an act. So if you're that guy and that's why you like Andrew Tate, the lifestyle, the fast cars, the women, the rap, he does rap, right? I'm not making that up.
Yes, I've seen some of his music.
So if that's the part you
Trash.
like, then that's fine. You do you. The internet is for everybody. That's just how it works in a free society. I don't really want to talk to you about that because I don't have anything to say about that. If you want to talk about the fact that you feel that men in this country are suffering and a lot of from a crisis of confidence and from I don't want to say undiagnosed, but kind of under resourced mental health crisis, and that Andrew Tate is the only person offering a solution, or that Andrew Tate's solutions are the right solution, I will absolutely have that conversation because one, that conversation could help people. And talk about a productive conversation, hearing people talk about mental health and ways they work through it, ways they work not just through mental health, but through their own confidence, right? Like building confidence, growing up, like hearing people talk about that will actually lead somewhere. And it allows the space to be full of multiple voices and not just one voice off in the right corner spewing the same thing unanswered, uninterrupted. And to me, like you said the biggest thing is that this was a bad interview, and you dislike that part. I agree, and I would just change the wording slightly to this was just an uninterrupted 2-hour Andrew Tate episode. We didn't learn anything new. We didn't gain anything new. And all it did was put 2 more hours into that space, which I do believe is empty. And I hope that going forward, I mean, obviously we'll talk about what we do, but we're just us. But going forward, more people, particularly people with a large following themselves, do talk about this stuff. And they don't just talk, oh, I just grind. We get it. You have to work hard. Everybody gets that. And if you don't get it, surprise, you do have to work hard to get anything. But there needs to be more to the conversation than that. Andrew Tate is giving more to the conversation than that. Nobody else is. So what is the second step? And I would absolutely talk to somebody who, subscribes to his programs and to his views about men's mental health, because I do think it is a productive conversation that needs to be had. And I also think that no one is having it with that group of people. And therefore, it's just one person dictating how men view themselves, their self-worth, and how to achieve success and happiness. And not just success, happiness. And I think that is always dangerous. Even if I agreed with the person, one person telling every man how to be happy, I think that's dangerous no matter what.
Very admirable stuff, Ryan. We appreciate that for sure. And something that has to talk about, something we have to talk about that causes a lot of stir on the internet is this one incident last week that took place on an American Airlines plane. Let's call her the alleged shapeshifter creature witness. There was a girl who was on an airplane that was about to take off on American Airlines. She apparently just flips out and goes crazy. She screamed on the top of her lungs, quote, fuck this, you guys are doomed, get me off this fucking plane. And she got her wish. She loses her mind and she said that she witnessed somebody being a creature, a shapeshifter. She saw some guy, and she
He's
said,
not real.
he's not real. Then she posts. Then while she's saying that, if I don't know if this is either intentional or a perfect candid moment, she's doing this hand symbols that like are satanic or something.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. This is really weird. She is very attractive. And that's why I think a lot of people are really interested in this. And after this incident happened, she is nowhere to be found. And I guess the flight went on as usual. There was no shapeshifters or what. And let me ask you, Ryan, do you think this was an internet hoax, or did we just witness something we're not supposed to?
Well, so it can't be a hoax. It's not a hoax. People have talked about what happened on the plane, right? Like that the
Yeah, but
plane
where is the alien?
deboarded. Oh no, I'm saying everyone said the plane deboarded. This person went away, and they reboarded later, and that was what happened. You know what I mean? Like everybody said that. So that part, like her outburst happened for
Yeah,
sure. Um, no one knows where she is.
that's
That is
creepy.
strange.
That
I'll
is
give you
insane.
that.
That's a week
That's
later.
strange. I mean, she's a private citizen, so
I mean,
she may
true,
not
of
want to
course,
be known. You know what
of
I mean? It's not
course.
like it's
But
not like
you
someone
know how
big went
people
out.
are. They find anything. You know how
You
many
would think, yeah, you would think. Um, I don't know. Like some reports said she was drunk before, like she was drunk at the bar before getting on the plane.
Oh
Someone
my.
said that she couldn't find her headphone, and like that was the incident. Like someone was sitting on one of her AirPods or something. Like
And that causes
I mean, like I don't know. I mean, I
simple as
could
that. I don't know.
so
That's
so
fine.
let's say like
Sometimes.
all right, so let's say that happened. She was blasted. She couldn't find her earbud. Maybe the guy next to her was sitting on the earbud, and like she just lost her mind. I could see why you then disappear for a week or whatever, 2 weeks. Don't want people to know that you were the drunk lady who deboarded a plane. You have to be really drunk to get a plane deboarded. Like you have to be really disruptive. Um, but I'll be honest. I mean, I'm not an expert on people, and I also, you know me, I'm Mr. Rationality. I don't tend to dive deep into conspiracies. Like, I mean, me and Matt talk about this all the time. We do talk about this all the time. That's not me, right? Most conspiracies, not all, most conspiracies to me sound like garbage, and I think that's because they kind of are.
Right. And my
She
thing about
seemed
conspiracies, I just
scared.
like and the thing about my conspiracy,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just like reading them. I like
Well, yeah.
reading the writing of a conspiracy. Whether I believe it or not's another thing, but it is
So
fascinating.
she seemed scared. I'm just gonna say, I mean, I'm not, I'm not specialized in this. This is just a guy watching a woman on the internet. She didn't seem happy. She seemed scared of whatever was in the back of that plane. My opinion. And again, it could just be a person that scared her. Like people are scary. I mean, the
Yeah.
words that he's not real, that's a weird thing to say about a person you're upset with. I'll give you that. But so I'm not even saying that it's got to be something like robots or aliens or whatever. But I am saying that I don't necessarily buy that this was just because she got hammered and couldn't find her headphone. Like I think we've seen what that video looks like before on an airplane. Like not that exact video, but like we've seen it when a person is just being angry and they're probably a little drunk, right? We've seen that video when they're, F this to the cabin person, F you to the flight attendant, calling out the captain. You know what I mean? Like they're usually mad at specific people and like calling them out and being like, you're or whatever. Usually they'll drop a racial slur. Let's just be honest. It does happen. Like in these videos that I'm talking about. She didn't do any of that. She just kept saying, I'm getting off this plane. I don't want to die. You all can die with him if you want. That person's not like that. She didn't say things that made me think she was mad at someone. She said things that made me think she was scared of something. And so I don't know what that was. I don't genuinely. Um, Whatever it was, it didn't amount to anything. The plane made it to its destination just fine. But uh, that was crazy, in my opinion. Genuinely.
Yeah, it you know, I believe there's three of videos showing three perspectives of this. We see the most popular one. Something like this, you really have to look at all angles.
Oh,
And I mean,
absolutely.
if I was on the plane, wouldn't everybody look at where where the open
They
seat she
did.
left is?
They
And is
did
there
too,
some
right?
guy sitting there like, why are you mad at me? What did I do?
Well,
Or
that's the other
whatever.
thing. The person, whoever this was,
The reptilian?
the person that sparked this, whoever it was, has also not come forward.
Yeah.
Like I feel if it were me, if someone got up on a plane after sitting down next to me and said that motherfucker's not real, I would probably be like, I'm very much real. This is me.
Right?
Hi, I'm a real person. I don't know what happened. I would be honest and be like, yeah, she did. She was obviously upset. I don't know why, but we haven't heard from anybody,
Yeah.
which is weird. I do think it's weird.
You people are crazy on the internet. And this is another thing that I
I don't
I
know
I
if we can
hope
blame the internet for this.
I hope by time the timeline 2023 edition takes place, we have more
Some
answers.
answers, or otherwise this will end up being like the obelisks out in the middle of the desert during COVID. Remember those?
Vaguely, but I remember something like that.
Yeah.
I want to be the first to interview the reptilian if he comes out. I'm gonna put myself on the record for that.
All right.
Let's talk about Jonah Hill. He
Let's
made
talk
some
about Jonah
sparks
Hill.
last week as well.
Well,
His
his ex
ex-girlfriend
did, yeah.
accused him of emotional abuse. She posted her text from December 2021, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
saying the stuff that showing the stuff that Jonah Hill allegedly texted her, like his plain and simple, if you need to be surfing with men, boundaryless, inappropriate friends with men, to model, post pictures, basically him making ground rules
Yeah.
for her. And I think it's fair to say no person should be toxic or controlling like that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, she didn't really have to blow up his spot. That's a story between those two that they need to take care of. But nobody should be controlling in a relationship. Now you can express what you like and like what you might. Now you can express to your partner privately if their actions are making you uncomfortable. I think that's fair, but not to be demanding like it seems these texts are. And for somebody, again, who would be easier for the story if they can make personal statements, if Jonah Hill would have said something, that would have been nice, but it's not. And I know with Jonah Hill that he's really removed himself from the spotlight in the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
He does not go on press junkets anymore for any movies or TV shows he's promoted for mental health issues. He's gone on social media asking people to stop talking about his image and weight specifically, no matter good or bad. Like, he really seems to be going through it, and you hope the guy is all right. And I used to be a huge Jonah Hill fan, very big admirer. Now, before he said these things, I thought throughout the years he kind of came off a little more standoffish. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever saw that interview with Jimmy Kimmel. It got pretty tense about
But didn't
uh
Kimmel, talk about one of his no stuff? Like he talked about his weight, right? Wasn't that?
I believe so. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it got bad. Like, when he came on Howard in the past few years, he used to be one of my favorite guests, but then it became like just straight up sad to listen to. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I know he's gone through a lot. I know he lost his brother at a younger age and stuff like that. And anyways, Jonah Hill's had quite the life. Let's put it that way. But for Sarah Brady, his ex-girlfriend, to post these essentially out of nowhere seems a bit much at this moment, don't you think?
Well, yeah. So we'll start there, but we do have to get to the first batch.
Mhm.
Because then she posted another batch
Of
from him more recently, basically
Yeah,
being like, "Why did you post this? This is like 2 years old. Like,
right.
I thought we moved on. It was the separation's amicable.
Which I think is a fair question.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know Sarah Brady. I don't know what she's been in. I know she's supposed to be an actress, right? Um.
Surfer.
Oh, I thought she was an actress.
I,
But anyway,
I think he just
doesn't
had
matter that
a I think he
much.
just had a baby with an actress,
Oh, okay, doesn't really
current
matter
girlfriend.
why this happened. It's kind of it's silly that she posted them now. Not because it's silly for women to talk about bad experiences, especially with other women, but just because it's been 2 years, so you weren't that concerned, right? Until
Right.
very recently for some reason. And that to me is just weird. And I think if it's been 2 years and you weren't concerned and then you suddenly become concerned, then you need to handle it a bit more tactfully. You know what I mean? Than that. As for the Jonah Hill's original, like the original posts, and it's almost perfectly cycles back to what we talked about like 2 segments ago with the men's thing. Um, you can in your head think like, listen, I don't know if I'm comfortable, if I'm confident enough to have my girlfriend hang around a bunch of surfer dudes all day. You can think that in your head, and if you think that, then that probably means that your surfer girlfriend and you are not a good match, not a compatible match.
Yes,
You
that's fair.
can't you and you take steps to remedy that by saying, listen, I don't think this is working out. We don't have a lot in common. Like, you know what I mean? Like we have different kind of thoughts on and priorities, hard feelings. People break up all the time. To do what he did was too far. It's one thing to talk about your boundaries, but your boundaries can't be you can't do these activities with these people. That's just telling someone what to do. That is just telling someone what to do. Don't hang out with your friends. Don't surf with your friends.
Jonah
It's
Hill
just
sounds like a Andrew Tate supporter with those comments. All joking
well,
aside,
but the thing is like he did try to like hide it with the like boundaries and like he used a lot of people putting
he
online
vote.
therapy speak.
Yeah, he did. That was kind of a you. That was quite the defense mechanism. He literally said in some of these texts, "Because of this, you are ruining my trust in humanity." I mean,
Well,
again, I
that was
guess
the second round
yeah.
of
In the
that.
second
Yeah.
text, I mean, again, I'm not going to tell you people how to think. You are entitled to your feelings, but I would like to think that an ex girlfriend doesn't represent all of society for me.
Right. But more importantly, like I do believe that Jonah Hill has every right to to see this, to see these posts, to see his girlfriend doing these things. Be like, well, I don't know, like this is just not something I feel okay with. But and you can even have a conversation where you say that, I suppose. But to be like, you got to stop this, or we're breaking up, is demanding. If you're in that relationship and if you're uncomfortable in your relationship, then you should end your relationship. Like you should do that. If you feel like it's not going to work, you should say that yourself. You shouldn't make someone try and change to keep you in the relationship that you're unhappy in. You should own I'm unhappy. And if that person does say, well, what can we do about it? Then that's a different conversation, perhaps. But that's certainly a conversation and not a text. Like
It's
that
crazy how
part is crazy. Why you would text the 6 paragraphs being like, you can't do these things if you want to date me. That A is controlling and B, it's a little entitled. Like
yeah.
she needs to be dating Jonah Hill. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no offense to Jonah Hill, but like, no one needs to be dating anybody. So, like, the idea that you've got to stop doing all of these things or we're not together anymore, that A is demanding and B kind of puts himself on like this weird pedestal for absolutely no reason. I think he should have just owned up and been like, I'm not comfortable in this relationship. And whatever came. And if she was like, listen, I'm willing to stop doing these things, then that's a conversation that they have to have of does he want her to fundamentally change for him?
And
Now,
not on
I
Twitter or
definitely
any
not, but
social media.
but not even just because I mean, obviously she put it on Twitter. He didn't put it on Twitter, but he did text all that stuff like that. The conversation should have been, I'm uncomfortable in this relationship, and then either they talk about what would make everybody comfortable, or they say, all right, that's cool, like I get it, no hard feelings, separate ways. And then and hopefully there would be no hard feelings. I think part of the reason these got posted, other than I think just to cause a scene, and I do think there's some of that. I'm sorry for the people who disagree. I do think some of this was her just wanting to cause a scene. I don't know why,
I think clearly that's one of the
but
examples. Yeah.
I do think that part of the reason is that those texts came in the first place. Had that all been a conversation that ended with Jonah Hill saying I'm uncomfortable, her saying I'm sorry, like but this is me, these are my friends, this is what I do, and them splitting amicably, she would not have put a post out like Jonah Hill was uncomfortable because of the friends I had. She would have just moved on. You know what I mean? And
Clearly,
so
this
would he.
woman
But
isn't. And
because
again, after
no, I
Jonah
think she
had a
would have
kid,
moved on. I think she would have moved on
No,
even after the
I'm
kid.
saying she didn't, and she's. It's
Oh
hard to
no, I
have
think it's
sympathy
because of
for
that
her in this
text.
situation, to be
Yes, because
honest.
she shouldn't have posted it after 2 years. But it's because I think because of the text, because of the way the text was. Like, you've got to stop doing that. You're hurting me. You're hurting my boundaries. Like the way that text was sent and worded and written down for her to see, like that was a kind of an aggressive thing to do. Like I said, I mean, I already said it, I'm not going to repeat myself with that. Like, it was weird that he did it. Put himself on a weird pedestal. It was definitely demanding on her. And I think had he just been like, I'm uncomfortable, and she'd been like, all right, no hard feelings, and they broke up, then none of this would have happened. But because he felt the need to just speak at her, right? With like, you got to do these things because you're hurting me and my boundaries. Like, because he felt the need to just tell her all that, like word vomit, and like basically put it on her to do better or lose him, it became like a weird ultimatum. And I think that made her mad. And it would make me mad. Genuinely, I don't know if I would have waited 2 years. I think that part is strange, but I could see why an ultimatum like that would be upsetting to hear. And so I don't know. I think they both, frankly, I think they both kind of look really bad in this. Jonah, because he
Very.
shouldn't have said what he said, and his ex girlfriend Sarah Brady, right?
Yeah, the swimmer
For the fact that she
who
posted them 2 years later, seemingly out of
whoever
nowhere.
dates her now, understand what happens if you if things go haywire.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing, and I'm sure that honestly, that's probably part of the calculus for her. This
Hmm.
gives her a reputation. This can give her some clout on social. Every time she dates someone, she could start blowing up their spot. This could very well be, part
Hopefully
of
you're
what she
married
wants.
already, Sarah, because you have a while till a guy could trust you again.
Well, I mean, hopefully the guy just doesn't do what Jonah Hill did, and it should be fine, right?
It
Like,
should be, yeah. And
but
every single one of your communication will be over the phone and you
yeah,
talk.
nothing will be written down.
Listen, it's not part of the tweet cap, but there's I don't know if you saw this there's this wide receiver on the Kansas City Chiefs who was a giant, and this guy wrote DMs to him saying, "Man, you suck, you're trash, you miss Daniel Jones," and he responded at 3 a.m. in a voice message, just vulgary, man. He's like, "Man, Daniel Jones, you should see my call log. He's the one who misses me," and then he used a lot of swear words after that. And then he said, "Meet me on the block. You never meet me on the block," or something like that. And um
Jeez.
either way, you're not gonna win. If you for any celebrity out there, and hopefully us soon to be celebrities from this pod, no matter if you write a text or use a voice message, it can always be recorded. So
Yes.
always interact on the phone if you can, or have a
In
trap
person.
phone,
Yeah, in
or in
person.
person, or FaceTime. I don't think the day when Apple allows recording a FaceTime,
That'll
it's
be the hard
slow.
one. Yeah.
But Jonah Hill, hopefully you find peace too.
Yeah, I think that's the end of the story. Should just be hopefully they both find what they're looking for, which in fairness is what Jonah said in the second block of texts.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that both of them look bad. I think that Jonah Hill needs to understand as a man that yes, it's great that he's doing therapy. I understand struggling with weight. Believe me, I do. But you can't just say the word boundaries over and over again and expect people to succumb to you. Your mental health is not your fault. This is not my quote. This is somebody else's. But it is your responsibility. So if your
That's
insecurity
bars.
made you react that way, then that's fine. Keep working on your insecurity. The insecurity is not necessarily your fault, but what you do with that insecurity is your responsibility. And as for her, I mean, I don't know why you waited 2 years. Feels like a bit of a predatory move. And for someone who did seem to have, probably been in a bit of a suffocating relationship, to go ahead and make herself look like a villain of equal measure is really sad because, I mean, she didn't do anything wrong at first. She didn't do anything wrong until she decided randomly 2 years later to tell the whole world about how much of how big a dick Jonah Hill was, which is insane to me. Some people are like, you should try and cancel people, and I hate that word cancel because I don't see it as a real thing. I think if you're not well liked, people will stop listening to you. But some people are saying that this is okay, that she should try to cancel Jonah Hill for being a bad boyfriend and for being controlling. First of all, I don't think that's true. I don't. I mean, I do think he was both of those things, a bad boyfriend and controlling, but I don't think he should be canceled or whatever that means. Like, I don't think he should lose work because of it. Unless that work is being a boyfriend, then maybe he could lose that job. But I don't know. I think that whole bit is crazy, trying to post something 2 years later like that. So I hope that she doesn't make a habit of doing that, because I don't think it makes her look good. And she didn't do anything wrong until that moment. So it's just weird that she would decide after being in that relationship to become an active part of what's wrong with that relationship 2 years later.
Definitely, man. Now let's switch it up and hopefully we get 21 Jump Street Jonah Hill back. Now it's the best Jonah Hill for sure. Next
Hopefully
to
we get
Superbad Jonah Hill.
happy Jonah Hill. Whatever happy is, whatever makes everybody happy, that's what we want.
Absolutely.
And happy Sarah.
Let's talk about happy stuff. This is definitely the best thing on the internet. It is Barbenheimer. Let's talk it and break it down.
Before we get into it, you said let's talk happy stuff. Let's talk about the nuclear bomb.
That's only one half of this.
That's one half. But can you imagine? We're doing an episode where the nuclear bomb is on the happier side of what we're talking about,
as seen by Chris Nolan. So things are different.
Chris Nolan's version of the nuclear bomb.
Barbenheimer. This Friday, July 21st, the most opposite movies. Let me restart that actually.
Yeah, you're good.
So, July 21st, next Friday, 2 movies are coming out, and they could be no more different than each other. They are true extreme opposites. You have Greta Gerwig's Barbie, released by Paramount Pictures, going up against Christopher Nolan's other way around. I'm going to restart this because we can, and I pay for the Zoom. Okay. Friday, July 21st is going to be a big day in the history of movies, and I'm serious, the history of cinema, American cinema that has been around since the 1900s. It has all come down to this. Warner Brothers' Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig, is coming out. Paramount Pictures' Christopher Nolan's big epic Oppenheimer is coming out. We have Barbie versus Oppenheimer, and they're all coming together. Barbie, the official plot of the movie, after being expelled from the utopian Barbie land for being less than perfect, Barbie and Ken go on a journey of self-discovery to the real world. What is Oppenheimer about? The official premise is based on the 2005 biography American Prometheus. J. Robert Oppenheimer, the theoretical physicist who helped develop the first nuclear weapons on the Manhattan Project. This is his story. So you have 2 powerhouse directors going at it, 2 powerhouse movie studios going at it. One that is the jealous boyfriend or girlfriend, maybe the Sarah Brady of Warner Brothers, Christopher Nolan.
Jeez.
He used to be a big Warner Brothers guy. And then he goes to Paramount Pictures. And Paramount and Warner Brothers just happens to release probably their biggest movie of the summer in their calendar year. The same day Oppenheimer comes out. Boy, it's pretty messy. But for huge cinephiles, for huge movie lovers, this is awesome. You have Cillian Murphy versus Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling versus Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt versus Michael Cera. I mean, seriously, everybody, this is awesome. This may literally be as Hollywood as it gets, and on the brink of SAG about to strike and the Writers Guild about to strike. Sorry, opposite. Writers Guild striking right now, SAG about to strike. Mm-hmm. This is as Hollywood as it gets, and this is great for the viewer. And if you are tired of conspiracies and stress and headaches of the world, you have 2 movies that can make you escape. And Ryan, tell me your excitement for Barbenheimer.
Right. Well, I think we need to talk specifically about the Barbenheimer bit of that. So, I mean, full rundown. of everything going on with these two movies. Excellent research from our host Matt Brown, of course, as always. But it's become a bit of an internet sensation. The idea that people are going to see on the same day, no less, both movies.
20,000 of AMC's
Yes, I was just about
tickets
to
have
say
been
that.
sold on the first day alone.
For both movies, to be clear.
Yeah.
So 20,000 people are seeing both movies on day one. It is crazy that the way that and I know that I've seen reports that Christopher Nolan is upset, as you pointed out, at Barbie coming out the same day as his movie. I think that Warner Brothers, Warner Brothers, right, and
Yeah, Warner
Paramount
Brothers. Mm-hmm.
are literally just blinded by dollar signs covering their eyes. They've
They
got a
don't care.
blindfold of just
By the
$100
way,
bills.
I said this wrong. It's being released by Universal Pictures, so
Universal,
not
okay.
Paramount, Universal. So
Yeah.
Universal's the one.
Whoever it is are seeing dollar signs over their face because these two movies are marketing each other. It's insane. People are looking at both movies equally. So people who are seeing Barbie ads are seeing it online within the context, usually within the context of Oppenheimer. And people seeing the Oppenheimer ads are seeing it usually in the context of the Barbie movie. Like these movies are basically co-advertising with each other on social media. People are posting about both movies. They're posting stills of both movies. Even when they post something about just one movie, they usually reference the other movie. Like these movies are essentially advertising one another. They could not be more different. It is, in my opinion, it'll never happen again. Listen, they're going to try it again. I'm sure of it. I think these movies are going to do well. I think you do too. I think you agree with me that within the first 2 weeks, these movies are going to do freaking awesome.
Critics loving both so far. The critical
Yeah.
embargo's been lifted.
Yeah, and so I think that people are going to love these movies, both of them. I mean, and what's not to like? I mean, Barbie is an IP, but it's not one that we've kind of been involved in that deeply. Oppenheimer, of course, is a real person, but again, not something that's been talked about crazy. You know what I mean? The casts are phenomenal for both. I think that both these movies are going to do really well, and I do think that the studios could try this again, the double movie thing, trying to create a double feature, but it won't happen again because part of the reason this is a double feature is that it doesn't make sense as a double feature. They are just so dramatically different, and that they both randomly came out on the same day, and I do think it's
randomly.
No, I do think it's random. I really do. I mean, all right, let me rephrase. Is it possible that to undercut Christopher Nolan, they did decide to release Barbie the same day? Yes, I do believe that. Did they think that this would happen? Did anyone in either camp think that Barbenheimer would be a thing? No.
That's a legit word. It's going to be Webster Dictionary's new word of the year.
I refuse to believe that any executive at either of those two studios was like, if we release these at the same time, we could get Barbenheimer t-shirts.
They come together.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because as I mentioned, just quick note, SAG, it looks like they're striking starting tomorrow. But we had Netflix, Warner Discovery, and Disney, their heads of studios came together to get a federal mediator, but it seems like it's not working. So they are in cahoots. So they could say, hey, when's our next Barbenheimer?
Yeah. They do work together overall. I'm saying neither studio did this to try and promote both movies.
Oh yeah, I'm saying now they will. That's what the three of them could do. Like Ted Sarandos and Robert Iger could say, all right, when are you releasing the remake of Toy Story? Where are you gonna do the live action remake of Toy Story? We'll release.
Well, it'd be like if they tried to release like a Christopher Robin movie and like that Winnie the Pooh horror movie on Netflix, like that. But I don't think they'll ever recreate it like this. I am excited. I do want to see both. Unfortunately, I'm super busy all of my weekends, and so I may not get to do the double feature direct. I may have to do back-to-back days. I may have to like go to the movie on like a Tuesday.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna have to do. They're all sold out. That's the problem. Tickets.
Oh, I want to see both. If I can figure out a way to go on a Saturday and see both, I'm going to. This is unfortunately this weekend would be like the perfect weekend for me to do that, and
only a week
away.
And if anybody listen, I can watch Oppenheimer by myself, but I can't go to myself to Barbie. So if anyone wants to accompany me, I say that now. I literally put that in dating profiles. Just see Barbie with me.
Just see Barbie with
Even
me.
I'll probably just see it by myself anyways in the theater. But oh
Bring
well.
what's it called? You have like an aunt or something. You've got people. You could bring someone.
I'm not gonna bring my aunt to see Barbie
Why not?
because I don't want to. That's
Oh,
the
well, then don't.
perfect date movie. And then Ryan Gosling's Song of the Summer, I'm Just Ken,
I'm
coming
just
out,
Ken.
which has some of the
Slashes on
best,
that song.
which has some of the best lyrics ever. What I mean, let me read these lyrics. I'm just Ken.
The
As we
Barbie
do,
World song's good too, I must say. We're talking about the soundtrack. What I hope, and I don't think it'll happen, I hope that they have the same amount of songs on their soundtrack because I would love to see
the Oppenheimer
someone.
that
Yeah. I would love to see someone replace the music from the Oppenheimer movie with the Barbie movie and vice versa. I think that would be very funny. But
oh man,
that's
we
just
could
me.
have Ludwig Johansson. Hope I said that right. Johansson, no Hans Zimmer for some reason.
They want to
But
hire me for some reason.
well, I mean, I guess this might be the Warner's legacy, but because during the pandemic, Christopher Nolan didn't like Tenet being released during the pandemic, not in theaters.
Mhm.
He said, "Screw you, I'm going somewhere else." In
I mean,
Universal,
Tenet was fine.
it was fine. Wasn't what his
Yeah.
best, but this definitely has a lot of hype. I mean, seriously, they've been talking about Oppenheimer for a solid 2 years,
Oh
and
yeah.
like I've never seen a non-franchise movie get hyped so much
Yeah,
ever.
and that one's big. So Barbie is technically a franchise movie. Like when you really get down to it, it's
Yeah,
not because they don't have a lot of movies, but it is technically.
yeah, it's a major
But
brand by Mattel.
yeah, but Oppenheimer. I mean, I
It's
don't
a
know
it's
if I don't even know if people before the movie came out would have known who he. I knew who he was, but
yeah, the
I
history
think there's a
books.
lot of people who are going to see this movie who, up until they saw the movie, had no idea who invented the nuclear bomb. I don't think that's common knowledge anymore. It used to be.
And
I don't
so
think
just
that's
to
common knowledge
just the
anymore.
dumb question, J. Robert Oppenheimer,
Yeah.
he is the guy who created the nuclear bomb. Like you would say, he's the
I
one.
mean, there's other people
Yeah, but he's like
obviously
the
who
head
worked
of
on
it.
it. Yes, he was in charge. I mean, there was the guy. So the guy in charge of the actual government program, the general, was a
Mhm.
guy named Leslie Groves, played by Matt Damon in the movie, in
Okay.
the Oppenheimer movie. But the scientist who was in charge, basically the scientist that Groves hired to lead the team of scientists to invent a nuclear bomb, was Oppenheimer. That was it.
Okay.
So all of it, like everything that was discovered on the American side, was ran through him. Like there are other people involved, people from obviously other, science is very collaborative. People from other allied nations, even people like Marie Curie in France, who was dead by this point. But she discovered radiation, so a lot of her work was used. Like so, obviously, you can't just say X created the bomb, but essentially X created the bomb because he was in charge. He took the data that already existed and he took a theory that he wrote down, said this is theoretically what would happen, how it would work, and then because he was a theoretical guy, like that was his deal. He had never built anything; it was just theories, and he took his theory and he made it happen in actual life, using
And
basically
also with the,
unlimited resources to blow up Japan, which is a problematic sentence to say out loud, but it is what happened. And so, like, yes,
why
he's
do you
the guy.
think Nolan wants to make this specific? This is his first movie based on true events.
What was his last
Obviously,
movie? Oh, I mean Tenet, but besides Tenet, like what was before Tenet?
there goes Tenet, then goes Dunkirk. Oh, sorry, this is second one. So this is his sort of biopic, though. It goes Tenet, Dunkirk, Interstellar, Dark Knight Rises, Dark Knight, Batman, the Prestige, Batman Begins.
Yeah,
Like Christopher Nolan is a top 4 director in America right now. Ever he
yeah.
is that much of an influence, and I think next to Tarantino, and I'm hardcore in the cinephile community.
Mhm.
People bend over backwards for Nolan. He could do no wrong. I mean, seriously, this is a 3-hour movie, and they don't
I
care
mean, yeah, it's kind of
in
has to be though. Think
IMAX.
about it.
Are you going to see it in IMAX?
Probably not.
It really seems like that's the way to see it, according to him.
I mean, if I could, I would, but I just don't know where the nearest IMAX is, and I'm just gonna have to go when I can go.
Yeah, at
Um,
least don't watch it on your iPhone.
no,
He
I'm
definitely
gonna see
doesn't
both
want
in
that.
yeah, I'm gonna see them both in theaters. But I think that the reason why is because it is new. I mean, it's not new. Obviously, it happened a long time ago, but I don't think anybody could name Oppenheimer before this movie came out. I don't think anyone knew what he did. Obviously, his complicated history because what he did killed like hundreds of thousands of people.
Right. And that
I
character
mean,
study alone. And,
yeah.
Christopher Nolan is known for his big visual effects. And he says no CGI was used whatsoever. And seeing those practical effects is pretty awesome. And be
Well,
excited for.
practical effects for a nuclear bomb test.
Yeah, I feel like I texted you last
You
summer.
did, yeah,
Hey,
you did.
they filmed the bomb scene today.
Imagine wanting an Academy Award so bad you create a nuke. I mean, that's
Well,
got to
I
win.
heard that they were
They have
thinking
practical effects, right?
yeah, they do have visual effects.
That's got to win.
And nobody goes practical anymore.
Right.
And
And he
there you
did
go.
practical nukes. If you've heard of
Yeah,
tactical nukes, he went with practical nukes. And I think
absolutely.
that, I mean, so he obviously won. No one's even going to try for visual effects because he built a nuclear bomb. He wins. You win. If you
Tough
build a
year
nuke,
for
you win.
Marvel. And then you get
Yeah.
to see Iron Man in the movie. He's playing Lewis Strauss.
Okay.
Are you aware of him?
No.
According to his Wikipedia, American businessman, served 2 terms on the Atomic Energy Commission. He's a major figure in developing nuclear weapons
So
and
he was
blah,
probably
blah,
just a
blah.
business guy who was part of the Manhattan Project.
Played by Robert Downey Jr.
Well,
I
yeah, they
saw
have
in
a
an
lot of
interview,
people
he
in this
said,
cast.
what?
They have a lot of people in this cast. Isn't God,
Florence
what's his name?
Pugh's in it, who's playing, I guess, the mistress. Because one of the things film Twitter is being obsessed of is the sex scene, which I mean, who cares? But I guess because
Well, he's
Christopher Nolan's
done,
doing a sex scene.
but he's not Christopher Nolan, but Cillian Murphy's done sex scenes before. This is not new
Yeah,
for him.
I think the joke is Christopher Nolan doing one,
Oh, okay.
but it really shows that sex sells. I mean, yeah, like,
Also,
look
this
at
is
this
not
cast.
Batman.
Obviously, Matt Damon, Florence Pugh, Josh Hartnett, he's back. Casey Affleck, Rami Malek.
Did you see? Sorry, quick. Did you see Josh Hartnett? I think it was him in Black Mirror.
No, I haven't seen the new season
No,
yet.
just look at
Is he
that.
back? Oh, is he? Are we saying a
He's in
Josh
it.
Hartnett renaissance?
I mean, he's in Black Mirror, so whatever that means. But he's
Yeah,
in
he's
Black
in the
Mirror. Yeah.
episode Beyond the Sea.
Yep, with the guy from Breaking Bad, Aaron Paul. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, is it scary?
No, I mean, no, no, you'll be fine.
Tom Conti is playing Albert Einstein.
I
So we're
mean,
gonna see Einstein in this
that's
movie.
well, yeah. Einstein helped build the bomb.
Um, Gary Oldman's playing Truman.
Really?
Yeah, according to
That
this.
feels like a weird casting choice, but okay.
Aiden Enric, who's a pretty big movie star, he played Han Solo. He's playing
Mhm.
Senate aide, so whatever that means. I mean, seriously, look how many people are
Senate
here.
aide.
Yeah,
He's just an aide to a senator, not even a named one.
according to this, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, $100 million film, 3 hours. Christopher Nolan at the helm, lots of hype, and then after you're probably sad and depressed but amazed,
I'm going the other way.
you're gonna see Barbie first? I think you got to see
I
Oppenheimer
think
first.
so. People, I've seen this all over the internet. We'll probably
What is the
end this on
debate?
this. So people talk about what you wake up in the morning, have a black coffee, smoke your cigarette, go see Oppenheimer, grab brunch, have some mimosas, go see Barbie, then a night out on the town dancing. I think of it this
Now
way.
that's a day.
To me, Oppenheimer, and I bet you this is true. I bet you Oppenheimer is going to be less like biography of a great man, air quotes on great man, to be clear. Great meaning, important, influential, earth changing in what they did. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be more of like a horror movie. Not like an actual horror movie, like horror genre, but I think that it's going to be a harrowing movie to watch. I think it's going to be a bit scary because this guy, I don't know if he knew this. He was going. You can debate whether he knew this was going to happen. You could debate why he thought this was okay. But this guy, he killed hundreds of thousands of people indirectly. He didn't drop the bomb himself. Um, indirectly, he killed hundreds of thousands of people. That's scary. The amount of people dead, that's scary. And I mean, let's face it, we're in a bit of a nuclear kind of haze right now in real life. Like our parents, I guess, probably grew up with the, hide your head under your desk in case the Russians bomb us sort of thing. And we didn't grow up that way. Like, we had, mass shootings and other things to worry about. But we've got this bomb threat happening over in Eastern Europe again all of a sudden. I think this movie is going to scare a lot of people. And so
and if it's practical effects too.
Yeah. So I want to see Barbie, right? Like during the day, grab some lunch or some dinner or whatever it is. And then at night, I want to see the horror movie.
Hey, for me, I think I'm going to do the opposite personally, but let's just quickly get back to Barbie. These lyrics, I'm just Ken.
Yes.
Because I'm just Ken, anywhere so I'd be a 10. Is it my destiny to live and die a life of blonde fragility?
Blonde fragility, yep.
I'm just Ken. Where I see love, she sees a friend. What will it take for her to see the man behind the 10 and fight for me?
So man. I mean, I'm not an expert on Barbies, but I thought Ken and Barbie were marketed as a couple.
Yeah, I guess not.
But in this movie, they're clearly friend zoning Ken.
Well, I'd have to ask the people who played with Barbies when we were growing up. Is Ken a friend this whole time?
Yeah, at T Tweetcap. Was Ken just a friend?
I don't know. Did your wife play with Barbies?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm sure she had some. But I don't know.
Yeah. I guess that this whole time, that's what we're learning, that Ken was just a friend this whole time.
I know. And look at how Ken expressing his emotions so coherently. We can all be more like Ken.
Man, when Margot Robbie friend zones Ryan Gosling, that's how you know. But I hear from early reviews that he's the star of the show, that he stole the whole thing. And people
really?
say, yeah. But here's a funny thing: Oscar nomination for Ryan Gosling
as Ken.
And don't get me wrong, Ryan Gosling is one of our best living actors right now, and he's very funny. In general, I've seen him in some.
He seems to have really dived into this role. Like he's really happy to be Ken. Dude, like he seems just genuinely really excited. That little clip
I showed of Ken, Barbie compliments Ken, and he just gives a side swipe. It goes, "Thank you, Barbie." It's so serious. No, it just shows why.
Well, the aesthetic is weird because they do kind of feel like toys.
Yeah, there are no shadows whatsoever.
And like again, think
about the cinematographer. Let me give credit. Rodrigo Prieto has an amazing career.
Just from what I've seen, obviously trailers. I've not seen the movie. Like when you're playing with toys, action figures or dolls or whatever, like you turn them to talk, right? And like there's some of that in there too, especially in the Barbie world scenes. Like when they're dolls, like again, there's no shadows and like there's like a little bit of jerky kind of like as if they're dolls.
I think their hands are like close together. Did you hear that there was apparently a pink paint shortage or something on set? That's what
they ran out of pink paint.
No, seriously, like the whole world shortage. They use it so much, and I think that's why this movie is just so fascinating, because it's just, despite it being a franchise, it's just so different. It's an innovative.
Oh yeah, and Greta Gerwig is going to be. I think people knew that going in. Like this was going to be not just going to be like Barbie does a thing and that's the end of the movie. Like this was going to.
Thank God. If Amy Schumer did that, that's what it would have been.
Right. This is going to be like a real movie that's going to be interesting to people. You know what I mean? Like because of the director, because of who was behind it, it was just, and the actors too, of course. Like this was going to be way more of a interesting kind of
take on Barbie.
Quirky movie too. Like there's going to be little quirks and things that wouldn't make it into a big budget like franchise Barbie movie.
Yes, and let me say thank the Lord that the Amy Schumer version has not been made. Like seriously, thank you. Whoever made the decision at Warner Brothers
looks a little like Barbie.
No, she doesn't.
Like, what would be the Amy Schumer? Like, what is the case for Amy Schumer doing this movie?
I mean, my thoughts are probably not appropriate to say with that, but At least Margot Robbie looks like she could be Barbie.
But just saying, also Margot Robbie is a serious actor, and this is a serious movie, so that
Yeah,
makes sense.
and
Uh,
but
even
that's the
the
thing
looks
that
aside,
the Mattel CEO had to sign off, and he said the Amy Schumer version of Barbie was fine, but it made Barbie the joke, and I think that's
right?
why, again, they went with the more established and Greta's partner Noah Baumbach, who's an amazing filmmaker himself,
So who was the
coming
director
together.
of the first Barbie movie with Amy
Like,
Schumer?
who was it supposed to be?
Yeah.
Um, Diablo Diablo Cody was gonna write it. So she
Hmm.
wrote Juno.
Okay.
Um,
It would have been very different then, yeah.
I but she as a writer.
Yeah.
I don't have anything at the moment saying who was a potential director in this. It was just Amy Schumer idea that it was first going to be a Sony movie, then Warner
Because
Brothers
I
took it.
bet, and we'll have to see it. I bet you low key Barbie, I won't say Barbie is going to be the joke of this movie, but I bet you this movie is going to have a lot of jokes about Barbie as a brand. I don't think
Like
this
a
movie is going to,
capitalism jokes.
yeah, kind of. I think this movie is probably going to have a lot to say about Barbies. And I don't think it'll be bad. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be done very well. But I think that this movie will subtly and effectively have a lot to say about, because Barbie's got a long history. There is on the Toys That Made Us Netflix series, they do Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
Super fascinating episode. Probably one of the best episodes of the series. Um,
I believe the creator is still alive, right?
I think so. Certainly, family is. I don't know if the actual creator is, but certainly the family is like still involved and stuff. So I'll say like definitely watch that. But it's a brand with a long and frankly complicated history, and I bet you this movie will tackle some of that in an interesting way that helps the movie
Mm-hmm.
um, throughout. So I would look out for that. That's what I'm looking out for in the Barbie movie. Oppenheimer, I'm just looking for a big boom.
And
Genuinely, I really
history.
am. I mean, history is interesting, but I just want to see how they do the bomb. Really, that's kind of what I'm going for. It's going to be well acted. I'm sure it's written really well. I just want to see what the bomb looks like because I know it's a practical effects bomb. But for
Yeah,
Barbie, I'm going to be interested in a lot more of like the story and some of the ways that they talk about things
for
that I
sure.
think that Greta Gerwig will want to talk about, being because she has such a large and very kind of consumerist platform to talk about it.
And yeah, as by the way, it seemed one of the early directors was Patty Jenkins, who was a very good director, directed Wonder Woman,
Okay.
and Monster. But again, I just don't want Amy Schumer involved with that because I'm not a fan of her.
There you go.
But Margot Robbie as Barbie, I think that is a hit. And again, by the way, the cinematographer Rodrigo Prieto, you know what his other movie is this year?
What?
It's Killers of the Flower Moon, the depressing Martin Scorsese movie, which I've definitely seen with Leo and De Niro about the genocide with indigenous people, and then he switches from that to
Hmm.
Barbie.
That's a switch. I agree. That's a switch.
But I love he's great. Prigo. He did Wolf of Wall Street and
Hmm.
Irishman and Brokeback Mountain, 8 Mile. He's the cinematographer for 8 Mile,
Wow. Okay. Yeah,
so
he's
he
got a
really
good
knows how to
resume then. Yeah.
use his colors, as you can see. I mean,
Hmm.
8 Mile is too dark sometimes, and then you go from to that to Barbie, even though that's more the production designer's job,
Yeah.
but getting that look still, it's cool. And then we have to go
It's
through
cool.
this cast really quick. Obviously, Margot Robbie as Barbie, Ryan Gosling as Ken. America Ferrera is the third lead. She plays Gloria, a Mattel employee who finds Barbie in the real world. Kate McKinnon's playing Weird Barbie. Issa Rae's playing President Barbie. Rhea Perlman is playing Ruth Hadler, who she's the one who invented Barbie. So she
Hmm.
passed away in 2002. So she's playing that. So you know Rhea Perlman from like Cheers.
Yep.
Will Ferrell is the CEO of Mattel.
Yes, I saw that scene.
And then some other people playing other Barbies include like Dua Lipa and other actors I don't know, but I'm sure they're very talented.
We'll
John
have to
Cena
see.
is playing a version of Ken. He's playing
Yep.
Merman Ken.
I saw that.
Helen Mirren's the narrator. I mean, there we go. Michael Cera's playing Alan, who according to this, he is Ken's best friend. It
Huh,
literally says he started out as Ken's buddy. So Michael Cera and Ryan Gosling playing friends.
that'll be fun.
So I mean, this movie just seems so much fun. Like this is a movie where I don't have to analyze too much. At least the first video, I could just enjoy a good movie that
I think so.
is a good
Yeah.
fantasy.
This one will be easier to watch on your phone too, like for
Oh
a
yeah,
second
that for
time
sure.
around. Yeah.
And then Oppenheimer, man. Yeah, we are definitely gonna do a Barbenheimer pod. We have
Okay.
to. I mean, there's the traffic shows that it'll get the review. So Ryan, definitely let me know when you see both.
Yeah. I'll make sure to see it as soon as I can.
All right, just definitely went over time, but we'll wrap it up with this
Real quick, yeah.
quickly. Who would have thought Barbie would get so much hype? Anyways, Hard Knocks, HBO successful show that shows an NFL team going into training camp. This year's team is going to be the New York Jets, and with the amazing appeal to it, which includes storylines with Aaron Rodgers joining the Jets, Zach Wilson, the former starter, going to a quarterback after a second round pick. Mekhi Becton issues their first round draft pick a couple years ago, trying to get on the field with his weight issues, but he definitely has Pro Bowl talent. Obviously, Robert Saleh tried in his third year. And, if this is just a big experiment, if it fails, everyone's losing their job. Joe Douglas, after drafting the offensive defensive rookie of the year, has another chance to prove why he's a good GM. And the Jets haven't won the Super Bowl since 1969. So,
Yep.
53 years ago, all
Yep.
coming together. There are Jet fans who are not happy about this, as if they are on the team, whether in the front office or the players. They think it's a distraction. Yet last time the Jets were on Hard Knocks was 2010, and they made the AFC
Did really
Championship.
well that year, yeah.
And then there's obviously everybody else with common sense who knows that this is appointment TV if you're a football fan. And I think even non-football fans could find the appeal in this work, don't you think? And you, as a legitimate Jets fan,
Yeah,
how
so
do
I'm
you
a
feel
Jets
about
fan.
this?
I am a Jets fan. But obviously I'm not like one of your football guys. So you know that I'm not as big in the like following football. So I'll
Hey,
let
you
you do
still
the
count.
heavy I'll let you do the heavy lifting on the football talk for this. I'm going to talk, like you said, about the appointment viewing aspect of this because this is appointment viewing. I've said to other people recently, friends of mine talking about the football season and the hard knock stuff. I'm like, I think genuinely, I don't know how many games the Jets are going to win. I'm assuming more than last year. I'm assuming they're actually
Yes.
going to do okay. They had a decent. They actually, when you really look at it, they didn't have a horrible team last year. They just didn't win any games, and now they got Aaron Rodgers
Right.
leading.
Then at one point they were 7-4 and had a
Yeah,
playoff position and lost 5 of the last 6
yeah.
games.
So I think
And
that
they ended the season. I just want to make sure. Um, they ended the season last year at 7-10. So
there you go. So
after
like,
being 7-4 at one point, so they lost their
yeah.
last 6.
So I mean, like they have talent on the team, and I think adding Aaron Rodgers is probably good for a good
This is
big step.
probably the biggest positive transition you'll ever see in the history of football between quarterbacks, going from Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers. It's the best upgrade in the history of the NFL. I'm not even kidding. Like, it
I
really
mean,
is.
yeah. Zach Wilson, he was in his second year last year,
Yep.
third year, second year, yeah. Like you
Second
know what I mean?
season.
Yeah, second year there. So it's not like you had like a fully fleshed champion quarterback there. You had basically a rookie.
Yeah, you're
Going
not going to
and then
win
you
when you
get
throw it to the ground and you
no, you're
giddy
not.
one game. And remember, he missed the first 2 games of the season. Joe Flacco was in. And then
Joe Flacco,
it went all
my
downhill
guy,
from there.
champion Joe Flacco, Super Bowl champion Joe Flacco.
Seriously, and
But anyway,
he's still
I
on it.
digress.
He's still holding on, I believe. Even though he's a
But
free agent, he
yeah,
hopes to get signed by
yeah.
somebody else.
I digress. My point though is that regardless of how many games they end up actually winning, this is going to be one of the more watched Jets seasons, I think, in a long time.
Oh
The
yeah, they
Jets are
have
just
7
so
primetime games.
interesting right now. that people are going to pay for tickets to see this team. They're going to stream this team, on NFL Pass. They're going to watch this team when they're available on their local networks. They're going to engage with social content around this team. The Jets have a prime opportunity to make some real money here, to put it bluntly, for themselves, for the NFL. They have a prime opportunity here to be the stars of the season, whether they win this season or not.
Because of one person, too.
Well, because of one person, but I mean, also to their credit, like, again, the defense is good. They have other solid players, and I think this is probably Aaron Rodgers coming in with his massive spotlight is probably really good for some of those, like those younger talented players. Sauce Gardner comes to mind, although he's already relatively well known, because now everyone's paying attention to the Jets. So if you're a decent Jet, but you just kind of got ignored because you play for the Jets, which happens. You can say it doesn't. It does happen when you play for a small market team or for a team that doesn't win. You get ignored in certain conversations you maybe should be ignored in. And Aaron Rodgers being there is going to put that spotlight on this team. And if they could turn out while Aaron's got their spotlight on, I think that it's going to be really big for some players. But also, I think that what's it called? Zach Wilson's comments in the press have made this even more interesting. He's like, I'm fighting for my job. Like, I'm going to take the spot. Like, I mean, all
he said
clown stuff. But
he said before Aaron Rodgers came to the team, whoever's going to compete the job, I'm going to make their life a living hell. And you got a Hall of Fame quarterback as the guy to make a living hell.
All clown stuff. It's never going to happen, of course. But it's just so funny. And, like, it brings intrigue.
And he might not even he might not even be quarterback 2. He might be the third string. They signed this guy Tim Boyle, that some people think he might take his job, and that's another thing another reason why Hard Knocks needs to follow him.
So I will say something for the Jets fans who are like, this could be bad for the team. Granted, if you think this, then you need to go outside. No, you need to go outside and touch some grass, right? I could see them making sure that Zach Wilson stays at number 2 in the depth chart, because that is a far more interesting storyline for Hard Knocks than Zach Wilson at number 3.
Yeah, and he might. And
no one knows who Tim Boyle is. So no one knows who Tim Boyle is. That won't make for that interesting television to watch Tim Boyle play at the number 2 spot. Well, you know what I mean? Like, but having Zach Wilson, who has been verbally being like, I'm going to beat Aaron Rodgers for this job, be the number 2 guy that they
or his
follow,
crazy mom will do it too.
I think that'll be very, very fun for TV. Fun for TV. Obviously, for the team, I could see why that would be a distraction. But again, a distraction at backup quarterback is like not a problem.
It's not going to
in my opinion. Like, that's not a problem. Like, no team is like, well, we would be really good, but I've got a distracting backup quarterback. Like, no one cares about the backup quarterback. It's not a problem. So I think it's good TV. I think it'll do really big numbers. I think the team's going to do really big numbers all season in terms of like attention and views and tickets and all that. Hopefully they win some games to back that up.
They're arguably the most popular team in American sports right now alone. And they
certainly the most interesting.
Yeah, they haven't played it down yet. And remember, their first game is week 1, Monday Night Football on 9/11 at home against the Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
That is
big game.
That's a must win to start off.
Yep. I mean, it's at home, it's against one of the stronger, like the historically stronger teams in their kind of.
You have the Madden cover athlete.
Like, yeah. You beat the Bills at home for game 1. You're going to set off the tone for the entire season, I think.
It's going to be big. Very exciting stuff for sure. And heck, we'll definitely circle in some Hard Knocks to talk during the month of August, because it really is that interesting. And again, a lot of these, especially the coaching staff too, this is it for everybody. If they don't make the playoffs, everyone's fired and they're going to restart again. Seriously, you can't invest this much in it and lose. Maybe you have one more year because Rodgers will be signed for 2 years, but it's a
won't be looking good. It won't be looking good if they
poetic justice indeed. But with that, Ryan, we have accomplished a lot today, and I want to thank you. And we will see you the week after next as we get ready for SummerSlam coverage and our productive PocketCast and obviously the Barbenheimer reviews
Yes.
because we have to comment on that.
Absolutely.
So once you see them both, and hopefully relatively soon,
Yeah.
like if you could finish it by August, and I'll try to too, that would be great. So it is in the mind of everybody.
Oh yeah,
That'd
we'll
be good.
try. Yeah, I'll try. Well,
Same
I'll let you
here.
know. I'll keep you updated.
Same here, man. It's gonna be great. So thanks, Ryan, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.